Good afternoon. My name is Ian, and I am in charge of business development at TENTUPLAY. I will be leading the second session on how to log and analyze behavioral data to your advantage. So, the whole concept of personalization stems from this question: what do we know about an anonymous player? Depending on your analytics and tracing capabilities, you may collect information on players' demographics, device information, and operating systems. These are relatively common and easy to approach techniques when you wish to learn more about your players. What game developers are starting to get their feet wet recently is behavioral data. To put it in simple terms, behavioral data is how a player perceives, interacts, and spends within your game. When you get to analyze such behavioral data about each player, you gain an insight into each player's personality and how to better engage them within your game. Growing in importance as many game platforms are encouraging more freedom and diversity to become what we so-call the metaverse, behavioral data analytics is becoming the state-of-the-art technique for maximizing retention and revenue. In the past, demographics were deemed pretty important in analyzing players or any users on the web. However, as Todd Yellin from Netflix has stated, geography, age, and gender, we put that in the garbage heap, and the same goes for the gaming industry. So before we dive right into how to log and process behavioral data, I want to make it clear what the ultimate purpose of collecting behavioral data is. As iOS is making an update on the mandatory opt-in permission for IDFAs, your games will inevitably lose revenue on targeted ads. Already 30% of your mobile game players are actively going into the settings to disable IDFAs. And according to Market Insight, 90% of players are expected to opt out when the update starts to take serious action. So, the mobile game industry is undergoing a very turbulent time, and the whole paradigm of how games make money and trace players is shifting. So to survive and prosper, personalizing your game content and offers is key to keeping your players happy and your revenue intact or even make it grow. If you individually keep each and every one of your players happy, they will stay longer and spend more in return. So now the big question is how you can provide the personalized service. This is where behavioral data kicks in. Personalization is all about understanding your players, and by collecting behavioral signals, you can categorize the personalities of your players and predict how they would behave, and really learn how you would treat them individually. As Falco Bakker from Joypack wrote, we'll be moving from a very deterministic world using IDFA to a non-deterministic world using other kinds of signals. This is going to be a turning point for not only the mobile games, but also all games to log behavioral cues and segment them by personalities. So collecting behavioral data is easier said than done. Player journey is a very complicated one, as you can see in the image. Unlike website or any other app behaviors, there are too many distractions and points of interest or churn. So in this session, we'll be focusing on how to analyze and organize and utilize such behavioral data. So the methodology for behavioral data logging can be summarized to this term, 4W1H time series data. Most of us are familiar with 5W1H, who, what, how, when, where, and why. And the why portion is what we are really interested in and what differentiates our strategy from other analytics company. So start by constructing a full narrative for a player event using 4W1H without the why portion. So who would be a player or any of the character that the player is playing with, and what is any action such as killing a monster, battling with a friend, or maybe selling an item, and how gives your narrative a context, such as killing a monster by using a skill, battling with a friend by sending an invitation. And when is pretty straightforward. You can just fill out the local time of your player. And where can be any stage, public space, or a PvP arena. And maybe even an in-game shop or an app store where your player would make any kind of purchase. So here's an example. Consider a narrative where in 2021, May 4th at 5:39 p.m., player A attacked an angry turtle monster at stage 3 boss battle using a frozen ball skill. So this is going to be kind of similar to any of the RPG games. The when portion is going to be the local time, who, player A, where, at stage 3 boss battle, what happened? Player A attacked an angry turtle monster. How? By using a frozen ball skill. And if you see the shaded cells below, these are the appropriate parameters that you're going to fill out to log the 4W1H narrative. So for when, the time is going to be a straightforward local time. And who is going to be player ID, character archetype, if the character has any archetype, and the character level. Where is going to be stage ID, stage name, and the stage type. In this case, this is not a PvP, it's a PvE, so we're going to fill out the stage type as PvE. And what the angry turtle monster is pretty straightforward as well. And how the frozen ball skill, attack method, frozen ball skill, critical strike, yes or no. So the example we just had constructs a data string for a single event, which only tells us what happened, such as the player reached level 13. If you thread these strings all together over time, you get what we call the time series data. It tells you the whole history of the player's journey throughout your game. For example, the player reached level 13 in 48 hours with 1 purchase of XP boost, 12 interstitial ad watch, and much more. By doing so, you're basically recording the entire life cycle of your players. You can utilize it when you are, for example, interested in how the player reached his first in-app purchase. Here, this player signs up and proceeds throughout the game, loses stage 2, visits IAP store but does not make a purchase, loses the same stage again, and finally makes a purchase. Now you know that this player is a very competitive one and is very inclined to purchase when he is frustrated from not being able to proceed to the next stage. This example might seem pretty straightforward, but in reality, the same event may come from very different motives, and I'll be giving you an example about it right now. Consider an event where a player purchases an ice-resistant armor, spending 20 diamonds, from an in-app store. Again, we log this event in the 4W1H narrative. Let's see. It's pretty straightforward here as well. The when, who, where at the IAP shop, what, purchase an ice-resistant armor, how, by consuming 20 diamonds. And you'll be logging the currency type, currency amount for the how, item type, and item name for what this player A purchased. So we're going to trace back why this player A purchased this item. So a minute before the purchase, player A lost a stage, and as a penalty, he leveled down from 32 to 31. This case may not be common for many of your games, but we have had experience with idle and RPG games where players actually lose XP and may even level down from losing a battle. By knowing this, we gain an insight that this player needed the ice-resistant armor specifically to clear stage 3. Consider a different case where a minute before the purchase, player A lost a PvP battle from an Ice Bowl skill. Here, player A apparently rushed to an IAP store to grab an item that will help him avoid losing another PvP battle from the same skill. Player A here is a very competitive player, just like the previous example, but is more concerned about the PvP content and learns and reacts directly to the PvP results. This last case is quite different. A minute before the purchase, player A opened a random box, consuming 200 gold, acquired 2 items, ice-resistant helmet and shield. If none of his other items or runes had to do with ice resistance, we now know that this player simply wanted to construct a full set of ice-resistant equipment. He may be a perfectionist, or he may be a collector, and we can learn more about this player by logging bigger size of time series data. As we close off the basics of behavioral data logging, I would like to talk about how to generalize and streamline the process so that it is more useful and easy to analyze. First, simplify the structure of log data. For us, we divide events into entities and actions. For example, entities would be players, characters, currency, items, and etc. These are the principal agents that are conducting an action or receiving an action. And actions are literally actions. Player may sign up, log in, level up within your game. Currencies such as gold, hearts, or diamonds may be acquired or consumed. And items may be acquired or consumed as well, but also dismissed or even forged to create a higher value item. So when an entity makes an action, you have an event. So how many entities are there, and how do you organize them? There are many approaches to this question, but TENTUPLAY has divided into 3 big categories: object, ability, and contents entities. Object entities refer to any active or inactive entities that are physically present within the game, such as character, currency, equipment, material, infrastructure, and so on. Ability entities refer to any skills, stats, or levels that are not physically present but define a player's performance. Contents entities refer to any of your game contents, including bonus, quest, stage, and ads. By putting these generalized entities together with actions, you can generalize events. For example, if you take a look at change stat event, the action of changing has been done to character stats, which is an ability entity. Now take a look at the play stage with equipment event, which refers to the action of playing stage with a specific equipment, which is an object entity. As such, TENTUPLAY records over 80 different types of events. Our generalized list of events capture almost every interactive movement or behavior that a player conducts in any kind of game genre, ranging from idle and narrative to MMORPG and SMG games. If you log these events over the life cycle of your players, you gain a 4W1H time series data for each and every one of your players, from the first day he or she enters your game till the day he or she leaves the game. So to give you a brief insight into how these logged events are fed into our AI algorithm, 4W1H data is uploaded to our behavioral economics engine. It automatically sorts players by each interest and motives to create 28 different personas. And 28 different personas, as Haeyam mentioned, they define the intrinsic motives and interests of each player. Based on these segmentations, our service offers automatic behavioral targeting and management that is tailored to each player. We match and recommend items to player, tips to player, and promotions to player. By doing so, behavior targeting can achieve and maximize conversion and retention rates by providing exactly what each player is in need of. And as many of the game developers are looking for, this is the way you keep your players happy by giving them what they need. So the core value of logging and analyzing behavioral data for TENTUPLAY is to provide the right offer to the right player at the right time. And all of this process can be done automatically within our service. And I hope that you guys have taken away a lot of the behavioral data logging methodology and how to analyze it to your advantage. And I would like to end this session on this note. Thank you for having us. I clearly understand 4W, but I am a bit confused about the how part in games. Can you explain a little bit more on how? So the how part is the most general part out of the 4W1H. It gives you the context for the whole action. So it might feel a bit undefined, but if you go to our docs page on our website, we have these entities called parameters called from and where to entities. that's going to help you define the narrative for the how. So please do so and go to our website and check out those information, which is going to give you an extensive information on how to define the how. The amount of time series data is getting bigger and bigger. How long should I keep the data to use your service? This is a good question. You need at least 30 days of data stacked in our system to get appropriate personas out of it. If you have too little, there would be very little personas that you're gonna be able to take away from. So yeah, 30 days is going to be the appropriate amount.
Okay. I would like to know about pricing of your service.
Oh, the pricing. So that's an important question, right? Pricing is going to be based on your MAUs, the monthly active users, and also the CPC. So it's all going to depend on your game and how your game performs throughout our service. So if you'd like to learn more about the pricing, or if you'd like to learn more about customization services, please contact us because we are always open for demos or any kind of virtual meetings. Yeah.
You can contact your TENTUPLAY anytime, right? Okay. Website or email address?
Oh yeah, you can always, I'm pretty sure there's my email address and Haeyoung's email address on the site, so you can always contact us through email or, yeah, please do so.
What kind of game genre do you have experienced? Can you tell us?
For mobile games, we have actually experienced in almost every game genre that you can think of, from idle narrative to MMORPGs. We have specialty in MMORPGs, but basically we have done most genres, including hyper casuals as well. So don't worry about your genre because the 28 personas that Han talked about and the behavioral logging methodology that I talked about can all be applied to your game.
Okay.
About the Metaverse white paper, behavioral data analytics is becoming really important within the Metaverse as well. So when you're actually downloading and reading through our white paper, please keep in mind how our behavioral logging methodology would help the Metaverse and would help you guys if you guys are interested in constructing a Metaverse or becoming a tenant within the Metaverse. So yeah, I'll leave you guys on this note, and thank you so much.